Hello everyone, in this video we are going to discuss the first round happened in the Greek Chess Classic 2024 Open Tournament where the top grandmasters are playing, including Magnus Carlsen. So we are going to discuss the first round that happened between Magnus Carlsen versus Richard Rapport. The game is very interesting. The time control is 45 minutes plus 10-second increment, I guess. So let's quickly start. So Richard Rapport is playing with the white pieces and Magnus is playing with the black pieces, and Richard starts with the game e4. And Magnus replies with c6, the Caro-Kann defense. So d4, d5, and after d5, Rapport goes for the advanced Caro-Kann by playing the move e5. We have the move bishop to f5. In my previous videos, I've already told you guys to go for the move c5 because it's a very interesting move. But okay, bishop f5, the main move. h4, trying to expand on the king side, a basic idea. h5, stopping white's expansion. Bishop to d3, trading off the bishop, and here black plays the move queen to a5 check. Now what's the idea behind giving a check, a useless check like this? So the basic point here is, after something like in the game we have c3, so the basic idea is to give a check and play the move queen a6, trying to trade off the queens because the endgame is good for black. And after c3, black plays e6. The basic point here is, the main move is generally after bishop g2, black plays queen to a6. And what's the idea? After takes, e6, f6, bishop f4 is a bad move because white has already played the move bishop g2, so playing bishop f4 simply wastes a move. So that's the reason after c3, Magnus first played the move e6, not going queen a6, because after the same variation, this time after e6, f6, white can go directly bishop f4, and bishop f4 is a must move because it stops knight c7, allowing black to capture the e6 pawn for free. So bishop f4, and now this version is good for white. So that's the reason exactly why after c3, Magnus first played the move e6, a4, c5, capturing the pawn, making a square for the knight to go on c6, knight to f3, queen to c7, knight to a3, developing the knight. The idea is to put the knight to b5. So first Magnus chop off the knight on a3, rook a3, knight to d7, developing the pieces, short castle, knight e7, rook e1, rook to c8, and now finally he has successfully developed all his pieces on the queen side, queen d1, and now we have the move a6. The idea could be to play the move b5 in the future, bishop to g5, not allowing black to castle short because the knight is hanging. So first Magnus played the move knight to g6, putting the maximum pressure on the pawn on e5, and here white simply played the move a5, so grabbing more space on the queen side, which makes a ton of sense. So after a5, here Magnus played the move short castle. And now many of you guys are wondering why can't black simply capture the pawn on e5. So the basic point here is, after if you try to capture the pawn, knight takes, here white can play the move queen to d5, queen to d4, which is a very strong move. You can't move the knight because the g7 pawn is simply hanging and black would be completely lost. So after queen to d4, black is kind of forced to play the move f6, where after bishop f4, short castle, we can simply take, and here black is having just too many weakness and white is already having a better position. That's the reason, at the place of capturing the pawn, Magnus first went for doing a short castle, which makes it tons of sense. So after here, Rapport plays the move rook a4, which is a very interesting move. The idea is to bring the rook into the game via the 4th rank. And here we have the move rook c to e8. A much better move at the place of rook c to e8, a much better move could have been to rook f to e8. That is pretty simple. You are keeping the rook on c rank into the game as well. If you try to play the move rook c to e8, the rook is kind of paralyzed. You can't play the move f6 because it only hammers the king side. So that's the idea. Rook c to e8 is a bit of a bad move. But here we have the move rook d4 by Rapport. A much better move could have been to play the move rook b4, putting maximum pressure on the pawn on b7, and the game would have been a bit more interesting. But okay, we have the move rook to d4, and here Magnus played the move knight into e5. So here the best move would have been to capture the pawn on a5, followed by c4. You can capture the c4 pawn because the rook is hanging, because the knight is hanging, and white is going to chop off the pawn on d5, and the game is going to be very much interesting. But okay, Magnus played the move knight into e5, capturing the pawn first, and here we have the move knight into knight, and here we have the move bishop to f4, which looks kind of a natural move, I would say, pinning up the knight, which makes a ton of sense. But here at the place of first playing bishop f4, the best move could have been to play the move queen into h5 first, sorry about that, queen into h5, first capturing the pawn on h5, and now the idea is bishop f4, which is a very interesting one. So after queen h5, black must play knight c6, where after rook to d3, white is having some great attacking chances on the king side, and white can think to attack some great launch on the king side. But okay, going back, Rapport first played the move bishop f4, pinning up the knight, but this simply allowed Magnus to play the move f6 first, and after queen h5, Magnus found a brilliant move because at the first glance it looks like Rapport still can go for capturing the e5 knight and win a pawn. But the point here is, here Magnus is having queen f7, first removing of the pin and now forcing queen trades. So we have a queen trade force, and after bishop h2, we have the move king h7, g4, knight to d8. You can't push the e pawn because the d pawn would be hanging, so that's the reason. You have the move knight d8, bishop g6, and now the endgame is equalish. So we have removed rook g8, rook b4, putting pressure on the b7 pawn, knight c6, takes, now rook to d7. And after rook d7, we have the move knight to c4, attacking the bishop. So why can't we go a move like rook a7? Because it allows knight c4, and if you try to capture the pawn in this position, black can capture this pawn as well. So this position is also fine, but okay. Rook to g7, knight c4, and now we have the move b3. Not giving up the pawn was the main idea. And if black goes for this position, white is just too much happy because a pawn is collapsing for black. That's the reason, knight to d2, and now rook to e2, sacrificing a pawn, and now we have the move bishop to e7. A very interesting move. The idea is to capture the f6 pawn because the bishop cannot be captured because the pawn is pinned up. We have the move king to h6, moving the king, and here we have the move king f1. I'm not pretty sure what was the idea of playing the move king f1, but the reason is quite simple. You cannot go for capturing the e6 pawn because knight c5 wins rook, because you cannot capture the knight as well because the rook is hanging and black is winning. So going back, that's why king f1 maybe, e5, attacking the knight and playing the move rook to b6, activating the rook, and now creating some deadly ideas with g5. So here first, Magnus played the move knight c4, allowing Rapport to capture the pawn, and here rook a8, trading off a pair of rooks, and here playing the move rook into d5. And eventually when the dust settled, Rapport is simply a pawn up and having a better position. So rook to a2, bishop to c5, rook to c2, which was a bad move, and here Rapport plays the move rook to d3. Better move could have been to play the move rook to d7. The idea is to play the move bishop to f8 and putting maximum pressure after takes, bishop f8, and here the game would have been very interesting, and white is already better in this position. But after rook to c2, we have the move rook d7, and Magnus played the move knight to d2 check. So here's your chance. Try to pause the video and try to find the move. What are you going to play with the white pieces if you are in Rapport's shoes? Okay, so it's a check. You need to move the king. There are 4 ways to move the king. But if you found the move rook to d2, it's a brilliant move, and that's exactly what happened in the game. Rook d2 and Magnus simply resigned. So why? The idea is pretty simple. White is a piece up, and if you try to capture the rook, we have the move bishop e3 check, and Magnus simply missed this one move idea, and just here white can simply capture the pawn. White is a pawn up, bishop up, and he's going to win the game. So that's the reason why after rook into d2, Magnus decided to simply resign the game. So a pretty 1200 or 900 puzzle missed by Magnus Carlsen. But it happens because both players were playing in the seconds. Magnus was having a couple of seconds on his clock, like around 13 to 18 seconds on his clock. So that was it for this game, for this video. If you learned anything new, if you had fun watching this video, then make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel. I'm going to come up with these exciting videos like this, so till then stay tuned and keep watching Oneshot Chess.